Okay, so I am going to unpack some of the pieces of the story of how we got to this place where MAGA is so popular. So, the first piece of the story I want to talk about is how patriarchy hates everyone. And I really had this insight when I was reading Sissy by Jacob Tobia, who's a genderqueer activist, and they were talking about their experience as a child when, as a child, they used he him pronouns. They're born male or whatever, and they had to do everything they could to avoid being called a sissy, and anything that wasn't super quote unquote masculine was called a sissy. It was very hard for them to avoid being called a sissy. They had to suppress even joyfulness to, like, giddiness is quote unquote not masculine. And so this obviously hurt them as a genderqueer person, but this impacts all people socialized as men. If they have to be dominant and strong and quote unquote fearless and not show sadness, not show fear, not show giddiness, just be confident and just like make a lot of money and be focused on being strong and quote unquote providers at all costs, that is a super narrow, difficult space to walk in. And those of you who follow me, you know I've talked a lot about the challenges of being socialized as a woman and the expectations there and the tightrope that is to walk. But under patriarchy, those socialized as men are often also walking a different tightrope than folks socialized as women. But it's also a very strict tightrope that is very painful. And one of the other realizations that I had was thinking about Playboy and the middle part of the centerfold, right? That you could fold out and would be these like beautiful pictures. And sometimes, they were pink and purple and pretty, and not every single centerfold is that way, but it was this one area where folks socialized as men were allowed, quote unquote, allowed to be giddy, to be gleeful. When there was an unclothed woman in front of them, they were allowed to get excited and have joy and have giddiness. And other than that, in any other context, giddiness would be called, oh, you're just a sissy, oh, you're gay, oh, you're an F slur, oh, you're whatever. So it's a really hard tightrope to walk being socialized as a man. Don't be sad, don't be giddy, don't be scared. Just be confident and strong, and you're allowed to be angry. That's the one socially acceptable emotion, is like confidence and stoicism or anger. So that's a really painful existence. And, when I was growing up, like, that was it for folks socialized as men. Hopefully it's changing now slowly. But this was, I remember this being enforced. Don't be weak, don't be a baby, quote unquote, man up, What the fuck does that mean? It means shut down all your emotions other than anger and confidence. Confidence isn't even really an emotion, but it's a you know what I mean. So you grow up, you're taught to suppress every single emotion other than anger. And the only place you're allowed to be giddy is when you see an unclothed woman. And that creates a lot of pain and trouble connecting and all of these challenges. And now, 2016, 2020, 2024, like these election cycles, we have the internet and YouTube and Facebook and TikTok that are, feeding us various points of view. And if you haven't healed from that, because folks socialized as men need to heal from their challenging experiences with patriarchy, from what they were socialized as. If you haven't done that healing and embraced that, oh my God, it's safe for me to feel scared and show I'm allowed to talk about my fear. It's safe for me to feel sad and doubtful, and it's safe for me to be joyful and giddy about many, many things, not just unclothed women. If they haven't done that healing, there's going to be a lot of pain and suffering, and we call it the quote-unquote loneliness epidemic right now, which, given patriarchy, it's like the way that boys were socialized, men were socialized. Of course we have a loneliness epidemic. Of course that's part of the problem today. And then enter the internet. And so these social media sites like YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, they want you to stay on, right? They want you to keep watching. And the way that one of the strategies that works is they will find a topic that you're interested in and then push you as extreme as you'll let them. So I know this from my personal experience on TikTok. Like, I had a day or a couple days where I almost became a hardcore alien conspiracy theorist. And I think I'm pretty, smart and well educated and media literate and able to discern conspiracy theories from news stories and facts. And I literally in my job at a nonprofit used to teach youth legal literacy online, how to differentiate a website that's telling you legitimate information about the laws in your province or city or country or whatever, and versus misinformation. But I was scrolling on TikTok, right? And I got one TikTok from this army vet guy that saw some files that were classified about aliens or whatever. And then I keep scrolling and it's dance video. My algorithm is dance video, cute animal video, cute baby video. Oh, alien video. And so I'm scrolling. Then it shows me a video of Barack Obama saying, there are these unidentified flying objects, and their flight path can't be explained by human technology. So I watched that video to completion. So the algorithm's starting to say, oh, Bryn is interested in alien stuff. So then another dance video, another funny video. I'm laughing, whatever. And then it's another army vet video. This army vet is saying there are 5 different kinds of aliens and they walk among us, and like you can see them on the streets of New York City. And then scroll, dance video, whatever. And what I saw happening in my brain, which luckily I was able to catch, but what I saw happening in my brain was suddenly my brain, because I was getting these pieces of information on the same app in sequence, it felt like Barack Obama and the army vets were all on the same page, which is not true. Barack Obama was not endorsing these army vets. Barack Obama just had one short video that said, there are these unidentified objects with flight patterns we can't explain. But because of the way the human brain works and, sorting through all this information, and especially when we're scrolling online, right? There's so much information going in your brain, like this topic, this topic, this topic. My brain started to say, like, oh, Barack Obama endorses these army vets. These army vets believe that there are 5 different types of aliens. And I could see how I almost fell down this rabbit hole. And if I had kept scrolling, I'm sure they would have slowly but surely introduced more and more extreme information about aliens. And I'm not saying aliens are real or aliens are not real. This is just an example of how I could see how TikTok was changing my mind and taking me down this rabbit hole, and how I almost fell for it. And another example from my life with TikTok is with Gaza. Sometimes I would use TikTok to kind of see what's happening on the ground there. You can get videos made from people living in Gaza explaining the situation. And what I noticed when I would go down those rabbit holes is I would get only pro-Palestine content, and I would get nothing, it was a completely unbalanced perspective. And I am someone who believes that everyone should be able to live without fear of bombing or kidnapping. And I am not pro-Palestine and fuck everyone in Israel. I think everyone should have a right to, dignity and life without fear of death. But in the TikTok universe, they're not going to show me anything about the suffering of people in Israel. It's just going to show me Palestine and push me as far as extreme as I am willing to go in that direction. And again, luckily, I am media literate, and I know I want a little bit of a more balanced view. Right now, I think people in Palestine are suffering more than people in Israel. It's not to say that people in Israel are not suffering at all, but I am more pro-Palestine in this moment because of the violence that continues to happen there. But TikTok doesn't show me both sides of an issue. It shows me one side, and then it'll take me as extreme as I can go. So back to MAGA. If you were socialized as a man and you were taught that you have to be strong, you have to be a provider, the only socially acceptable emotion is anger. You have to suppress your sadness, you have to suppress your giddiness, you have to suppress your fear. And then, you can't connect with your friends on certain levels because you can't tell them the truth about things that are scaring you. You start to feel lonely, you start to feel isolated, and then you start to see TikToks that explain why you feel so isolated and why you feel so lonely. It is liberals' fault, or it is immigrants' fault, or it has someone to blame your pain and your suffering. That is, the pain and suffering is real and legitimate, but you have some outside source to blame that on. And the reason you can't be the provider or have as much money that would make you a good man or whatever is because of these other groups that have taken that away from you. And then you have these algorithms that will take you as extreme as you will go. So you maybe start with a pretty like neutral, or like not totally neutral video, but not that extreme video that explains the pain and suffering that you're feeling. And then slowly you get fed more extreme and more extreme and more extreme videos. You get radicalized by these algorithms. And like, I guess for me, every time I almost got radicalized, I would like pull myself out, right? I was able to see, oh my God, the algorithm is trying to make me a full, like, intense alien conspiracy theorist, or full, like, Palestine to the point that anyone of the Jewish faith is evil type of content, which I don't believe at all. I am against anti-Semitism and I am against Islamophobia. I'm against both of those things. I can see how these websites played a role in giving people an explanation for their suffering and their pain that isn't, because the other option is like, I'm lonely because I'm a loser. And if you give someone who's lonely and suffering a reason to explain their loneliness and suffering, it feels better, right? There's nothing wrong with you. The system is against you or whatever. So this is not the whole story, right? There's more pieces of the puzzle of how MAGA has gained so much traction, but these are some pieces of the puzzle that I am seeing. And, you know, I think part of the role that I can play and we can play together is to notice ourselves when we say, be a man up. To notice ourselves when we are enforcing patriarchy on folks socialized as men and laughing at men who cry or show emotions, or making fun of them, or enforcing these like even the meme, right? Looking for a man in finance, 6'5", blue eyes. It's like, to be quote unquote a good man, there are all these like boxes you have to tick, and that's not helping our world. So that's like my thesis for the moment. It's continuing to evolve, and you know, if this makes sense for you, or if it brings up questions, or even if you disagree, like I'd love to hear from you and follow me. My thesis is gonna continue to evolve. There are some like cool people talking about this. I just watched some interviews with Verona Papasova, who went on undercover on dates with these extreme MAGA, extreme Republicans, and her insights are super interesting. I think there's a lot that we can learn in this moment. And yeah, please hop on my trauma healing love letters that are linked in my bio. I'll link in the description, or follow me, and let's continue to explore how to make the world a better place as feminists, as people who want a better world. And if you want to hang out in person, I have, or on Zoom is what I mean. I have the Feminist Millionaire portal. We have done the first 2 sessions live, but the third session, there is still one more live session. It's completely free. It's linked in my bio, and we're going to talk about becoming a wealthy feminist who want the world to be a better place, who want to understand the complex political challenges that we're facing right now, and who are looking towards solutions. So I would love to have you there. The Feminist Millionaire portal is linked in my bio. I'll link it in the description as well. And I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.